12 as they roll into the backstretch.
From the First Bet Studios in Arcadia, California, I am Jeff Siegel. Welcome to our analysis and handicapping preview of the Grade 1 Haskell. Goes on Saturday at Monmouth Park, a very important race for 3-year-olds. And if you are playing the Haskell, or if you're playing the United Nations Stakes, that's the same day. United Nations goes as the 11th race. The Haskell is the 12th. We got a great promotion for you. Now, if you bet $10 to win on one horse and it wins, great, you win. But if you run second or third, we'll give you your $10 back. That's pretty good. That applies to the Haskell and the UN Stakes at Monmouth on Saturday. Don't forget also we have a $1,000 Haskell Handicapping Challenge. You can participate in that. Details at expressbet.com/tournament. As I bring in Eddie Olczyk. And Eddie, you're fresh off the Stanley Cup, so now you can concentrate fully on ExpressBet selections, although I have a hunch you probably do that anyway. But looking at the Haskell, how do we make money on this race and who's going to win?
Well, Jeff, great to be with you. And usually I'm not covering hockey in the middle of July, so let's just leave it at that. That won't happen again here moving forward. We got to get our priorities straight, of course, in July and into August. But, you know, look, I mean, everything I think there's without a doubt goes through Hot Rod Charlie. But I thought the interesting horse was the rail horse, was Following C. Again, I don't know if Run Happy can go ahead and get the mile in an eighth here. But for me, it's all going to be about Hot Rod Charlie. Got to keep an eye on the weather, Jeff. I'm going to be heading to Monmouth for the Haskell for NBC, and looks like there might be some rain later in the day. So keep your eye on the weather, and I think that would suit Hot Rod Charlie fine. Interesting, the blinkers come off for Doug O'Neill. Ran an unbelievable race in the Belmont, but I think everything goes through Hot Rod Charlie, and I'd be surely happy with 9-5 or 8-5 if I could get that on Hot Rod Charlie, because I don't think it's a really great deep race. But I think he might end up tracking the rail horse, and I think it ends up being, I don't want to say a merry-go-round race, but certainly Hot Rod Charlie, I think, has the ability to go ahead and run a mile and an eighth all day long, and I think Hot Rod Charlie gets the job done in the Haskell.
Well, he certainly is training well. Now, he worked without the blinkers recently here at Santa Anita, broke off behind a stablemate, and then roared on by, and this was a very sharp work. You always have to worry about horses coming out of the Belmont, whether that race that he ran was too taxing, but I got to be honest, he looks great in the morning. I suspect that he will be very tough and maintain his form in the Haskell. But you mentioned Following C, Eddie. Inside speed with Joel Rosario, first time around 2 turns. Bred to be a sprinter on both sides of his pedigree. But if he gets loose on the lead, perhaps he'll take them a very long way.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to get that loose on the lead, because I don't think you want to let Joel Rosario get that far ahead on a sprinter so-called stretching out. And for me here, working with Dr. Post, who's a very nice horse, or Todd Fletcher as well, I really think that Hot Rod Charlie is a horse that can be tactical, going to be right on the heels of Following C along the rail. And again, I mean, I go back to it again, just keep an eye on the weather and see how that track is playing at Monmouth on Saturday for the Haskell. But I agree with you. Lone speed could be certainly dangerous at Monmouth. We've seen it over the years, regardless if the jockeys have to have the riding crop or not. For me, Hot Rod Charlie is a horse, but keep an eye on that rail horse.
Quick thought on Mandaloon, who, of course, may or may not eventually be the Kentucky Derby winner. Right. And then Midnight Bourbon. I mean, those two are quality 3-year-olds. How do you think they shape up in this race?
Well, an advantage for Mandaloon, because he did win the prep for the Haskell a couple of weeks ago on June the 13th in the Pegasus, but might end up tripping out here, Jeff. Maybe that's what ends up happening for Mandaloon, where maybe the rail horse and Hot Rod Charlie really go at it. I don't think that's going to be the case, but Mandaloon might be able to, sit the trip there and finish up in behind. If they go really fast, you got to like Mandaloon. And of course, Florent Drew has been the only pilot on Mandaloon. So, but I'm going to go everything with Hot Rod Charlie up top and look for the rail horse and Mandaloon to finish underneath.
I agree with you 1,000%. I hope we're both right. Hot Rod Charlie in a stalking position, Following C on the inside on the lead, and then in the final furlong, Hot Rod Charlie goes on by. It's going to be a great race. And have a good time and stay dry in New Jersey, Eddie.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
And thank you for joining us, and best of luck on Saturday at the races.
Laps to the 12.